welcome to this video. This is the first video on this channel, and I'm honestly really excited to get into it and actually start making videos and doing something that I've been thinking of for quite a long while, honestly. And the case we're going to be taking a look at today is a Swedish case. And before we get into it, I just want to make a disclaimer that the involved in this case are very young. The victim was 4 and the accused were 5 and 7. And everyone involved in this case is a minor, and therefore to remain as respectful to them and their families, I will not be naming them. There is a documentary and an article that was of significance in this case. I will link those down below. However, they aren't Swedish, so just keep in mind if you are not Swedish. Anyways, let's get into it. This is the case of Kevin. This case is unique, mainly due to the young ages of both accused and victim. This case was highly mediatized when it took place in 1998, but also later on in 2015, 2017, and 2022. This is the case of Kevin, a 4-year-old whose death still remains a mystery. The case takes place in Dokumentär in Arvika, a small municipal in western Sweden, close to the Norwegian border. Kevin was a 4, almost 5-year-old boy who left his home around 4 in the afternoon to go and play with some neighborhood boys on Sunday the 16th of August 1998. They went to a playground just outside of the houses, as I understand it. An hour later, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, would be the last time that Kevin was seen alive. When Kevin hadn't returned home in the evening, his mother grew worried and went out to look for her son. This was around 9 in the evening. To help, she called her parents, or Kevin's grandparents, who lived nearby. After searching for about 15 minutes, Kevin's grandfather discovered the boy's body on top of 2 pallets in the reed by Kyrkviken, a bay not too far from Kevin's home. An ambulance was called to the scene, having been called for a drowning accident. Ambulance and police quickly responded to the scene. Initially, the police believed that the boy had perished due to drowning, but the wounds on the body suggest something darker. This made the police decide to get an autopsy. The coroner found evidence that suggested Kevin had been assayed and then killed. In response to these new founds, police decided to make a list of every sex offender who lived nearby. Soon, the police investigation took a sharp turn when evidence was found that suggested Kevin had been killed by another child. The police claimed that Kevin had been killed by a stick being held to his neck until he suffocated. After being killed, the body had supposedly been moved about 30 meters from the actual scene of the crime. How his body had been moved was unclear due to the fact that evidence of this was greatly lacking. There were no dragging signs on the ground, nor any marks on Kevin's body that supported this theory. During the investigation, a total of 482 people were interrogated, many of whom were kids. One of Kevin's 5-year-old friends told his parents that he had seen something, leading his parents to bring him to the police in the belief that their child was a witness. Soon, the police started to suspect that the 5-year-old boy and his older brother had something to do with Kevin's death. The boys were accused of murder and had allegedly admitted to the crime. A psychologist supported this theory and had been looped into the investigation at an early stage. The psychologist, by the name of Sven Kristiansson, had previously been accused of being part of a faulty conviction where a man was convicted for 8 murders committed in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, despite there being no evidence tying the man to the case. A case known as kvickaffären. In this instance, however, the boys were under the age of 15, meaning that they cannot be convicted of any crimes, and the boys were legally only considered reasonable suspects, which is the highest degree of suspicion in Swedish court. After a press conference where the police presented their suspicions and evidence, the case was considered solved, and the suspected kids were taken into custody for child and youth psychiatry to be treated. So they were taken into custody by social services. This led to the family having to move into a special apartment where they were investigated and monitored for 6 months. This case got a lot of media attention for obvious reasons, and the judicial department of the Swedish government faced heavy backlash due to them calling up the lead detective daily to keep informed on how the investigation was going. Later in 2015, a documentary about the case was published in Swedish NPR, P3, where part of the investigation and the conclusion of the investigation was considered successful. However, after investigation of the case from various journalists, the documentary was taken down. In 2017, a national newspaper called Dagens Nyheter published an article examining the investigation was released. The article was highly critical of the investigation, claiming that there were several irregularities and leading questions when the boys had been questioned by police. For example, the article was critical due to the many and long sessions the boys were put through, which is heavily discouraged by child psychology experts due to being counterproductive and can lead to false confessions. The kids were also given threats or rewards depending on how they answered the question. The boys and their family also remained without legal advisory throughout the entire investigation. The final confessions of the crime were not videotaped. A documentary on Swedish Public Broadcasting System, SVT, was also published soon after the article, which contained clips from the questioning of the boys. This was the first time in 19 years that the police investigation surrounding Kevin's death had been questioned. One of the journalists responsible for the examination of the case in 2017 said that media in 1998 had not been critical enough of the usage of forgotten memories, which is a term within forensic psychology, and therefore not done their due diligence as a control function. On the 8th of May, 2017, the Swedish Criminal Court decided to reinvestigate the case through a new investigation due to new information that had been published in the article. On the 27th of March 2018, a press conference was held and the final investigation was presented. The previously suspected boys were freed from suspicion due to the conclusion that the previous detectives had been unclear, contradictory, and inconsequential. In a statement, the Agency of Forensic Medicine also said that it is highly unlikely that small children could inflict the kind of wounds that were found on Kevin's body. After suspicions against the young boys were dropped, the brothers demanded to be paid damages from Arvika kommun, the municipal where the crime took place. The municipal apologized to the brothers but concluded after an investigation that social services had not done anything wrong since the boys were declared guilty and the boys did therefore not receive any compensation for damages. In March of 2022, the brothers were, however, granted ex gratia, which can be compared to damages, to the sum of 1 million Swedish crowns for each from the state. The Minister of Justice and Home Affairs, Morgan Johansson, released a statement saying, "If the state does something wrong, the state must also do something right," and wished the brothers all the best and good luck in the future. But what happened to Kevin? Since the case is now considered unsolved, several theories on what actually happened have come out. One theory is that Kevin was killed in an accident, being squeezed while playing on the pallets his body was found on. Another more popular theory, coming from criminologist Leif GW Persson, is that the most likely thing was that Kevin was killed by a 13-year-old boy who had been marked as a suspect in both investigations. The 13-year-old knew Kevin and was seen playing with Kevin on the day he died. The 13-year-old had also given police a false alibi during questioning and was 9 months later arrested for raping a 3-year-old in the same neighborhood. The prosecutors, however, did not think it was possible to prove that the 13-year-old had been involved due to a lack of evidence. Okay, so that was the case of Kevin. Let me know what you think about this case. What are your theories? What do you think happened? Do you think it was an accident, or do you think this was intentional? My personal opinion on this case is that I do think the 13-year-old had something to do with it. I don't know if it was just him, if he acted alone or not, if there were other people there, because there have also been theories that he was just playing with a group of older kids and, they did something that they thought were cool and he was killed accidentally, but also intentionally. I don't know. I do think the 13-year-old is a very unlikely suspect because of everything, just the circumstances of this case. I mean, he couldn't give the police an alibi. He had been convicted of a somewhat similar case, and the fact that, he's 13 just seems more likely that a 13-year-old would do this than a 5 and a 7-year-old. I don't know. Let me know what you think. My thoughts, like I said, is that the 13-year-old did it. However, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, a 4-year-old boy is still dead. He was still killed. If it was an accident or not, it doesn't matter. He will not return to his family, and I can't even begin to understand the amount of grief that they have gone through. And especially with this case being closed, being open, being criticized, just constantly being in the eye of the media. And especially if, case is closed, you think you know what happened, boys are unofficially convicted, and then 19 years later, some journalist decides that they want to further investigate this case and the circumstances of this case. And all of a sudden, you're just thrown back into the media. Suddenly, these boys are exempt, and the charges or the suspicion against them is dropped. And suddenly, you just don't know what happened anymore. And now, the case is considered closed, but no one has been convicted of, killing Kevin. So, the family still don't really know what happened to Kevin. They just know that their child, their son, is not here anymore. And that is, of course, very tragic. It always is. And even if it was an accident, it would be tragic because he's still a small child. It is what it is. I don't know what to say to kind of round up this video. But my thoughts go out to Kevin's family and to the boys also, who were falsely, unofficially convicted despite not having anything to do with Kevin's case and the death of Kevin. Yeah. But let me know what you think about this case. Which theory do you think is the most likely? Or was it just an accident? Are we all wrong? What do you think about the boys killed in this case? Do you think that they saw something? Do you think they didn't? Do you think that they know who did it? Or were they just completely falsely accused? I'm going to link the article down below from DN, Dokumentär, and the documentary from SVT. However, at least the article is locked. It's behind the paywall. And the documentary is only accessible within Sweden. And I understand about that, but I'm sure you can find, if you're not in Sweden, I'm sure that you can find information about this case on other places. For example, I saw Daily Mail had at least one article about the case. Just search Kevin Fallet or the case of Kevin or Kevin Hjalmarsson, and I'm sure you'll find something about this case, because usually when kids kill kids, it's a very big ordeal internationally too. But yeah, and despite the very grim nature of this case, I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you have any cases that you'd like me to cover, please let me know. I have at least 2 other Swedish cases that I'd like to cover, and then after that I might broaden my horizon and look internationally too. But let me know if there are any interesting cases that you'd like to hear more about, and I will see what I can do. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for visiting my channel. I hope you enjoyed your visit here, and I will hopefully see you in the next video.